I bought my dream home, hardwood floors, skyline views, the kind of place my family always said I'd never afford. So I invited them for a housewarming, sent the address, sent reminders, cooked enough food for 20 people, and when the doorbell finally rang, it wasn't them. It was my neighbor, telling me my entire family was across town at a party I wasn't invited to. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a message, and I decided to send one back. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments, and I will give you a heart. The day I bought my dream home was supposed to be the moment everything finally made sense. The years of grinding, saving, sacrificing, swallowing back comments like, maybe you should just stick to something more realistic, or you're good but not that good. I'd heard those lines from my family more times than I could count. They said them with this condescending sweetness, the kind that sounded like concern but felt like a slap. So when I signed those papers and held the keys in my hand, I didn't just feel proud, I felt vindicated. I felt like I'd finally stepped into a version of myself I'd been building brick by brick while everyone else thought I was playing pretend. The house was perfect. Not almost perfect, perfect. Big windows that pulled the sunlight in like it was magnetized to the walls. A kitchen that made me want to cook meals I couldn't even pronounce. A backyard that hummed with the kind of peace I thought only existed in movies. It was more than a house, it was proof. Proof that I had done something for myself. Proof that I wasn't the failure they whispered about. Proof that I could build a life even when they didn't bother cheering. So inviting them to a housewarming felt like the natural next step. Maybe this time they'd show up for me. Maybe this time they'd see me. Maybe this time they'd treat me like I belonged. I sent the group message, big, enthusiastic, full of emojis my mother would pretend not to understand. I added the address, the time, the promise of food, drinks, desserts, music, the works. My sister replied with a dry, okay. My mom sent a thumbs up, the digital equivalent of a shrug. My brother ignored the message completely, should have done. But I pushed away the discomfort, chalked it up to them being busy. Families are messy, right? Still, a part of me hoped that when the day came, I'd open the door and see them smiling, maybe proud, maybe even impressed. I spent the whole morning prepping. I cleaned every corner twice, lit candles, played upbeat music to keep my nerves in check. I arranged the food like I was auditioning for a cooking show. I kept looking at the clock. 30 minutes until the party. 15. 5. That first hour passed painfully slow. Too quiet, too empty. I kept checking my phone. Maybe they sent a message saying they were close. Maybe traffic was bad. Maybe my mom had one of her dramatic last-minute emergencies. But there was nothing, not a single text. I kept pacing from the front window to the kitchen, convincing myself they'd walk up any minute. When the doorbell finally rang, I nearly tripped running to it. I plastered on my best, not hurt or desperate smile and opened the door, only to see my neighbor holding a plate of cookies like they were delivering condolences. "Hey," she said softly, eyes shifting behind me at the untouched food, the empty living room, the silence. "I just wanted to drop these off since I saw your cars all lined up outside, except there were no cars. Mine was the only one in the driveway. My family's running late," I lied. She offered a sympathetic smile, the kind people give you when they don't want to confirm the truth. She hesitated, and that hesitation was the beginning of the end. I just came from the Kensington place." "Kensington?" "The wealthy cul-de-sac across town." She nodded. "Your family's all there, big gathering, cars everywhere. Looked like some kind of celebration." I felt the world tilt. My stomach dropped before my brain could catch up. My family? Yes, your mom, your brother, your sister. I even saw your aunt. They were all there. I waved at your mom. She waved back. The cookies in her hand suddenly felt symbolic. Pity disguised as kindness. I thanked her, closed the door slowly, and just stood there in the foyer, surrounded by a house I'd worked my entire 20s to afford, feeling like an intruder in my own success. They didn't forget. They didn't lose the address. They didn't hit traffic. They chose not to come. They chose someone else's party over mine. They chose to humiliate me quietly, privately, as if my life was an optional event they could walk away from without consequence. And I stood there asking myself the same pathetic question I'd asked since childhood: what did I do wrong? I walked back into the kitchen and looked at all the food, untouched, beautiful, pointless. The candles burned low, mocking me with their soft, romantic glow. I had planned a warm family evening. Instead, I got an empty house and a truth I'd been trying not to see for years. They didn't want to be part of my life unless they could feel superior in it. And me owning a house, me succeeding without their help, that made me inconvenient. That made me the wrong sibling to celebrate. I sat down, letting the silence grow heavy around me. Then something unexpected happened. The embarrassment turned into clarity. The sting turned into steel. That neighbor hadn't just given me information. She handed me a mirror. And I finally saw the truth for what it was. My family wasn't thoughtless. They were deliberate. They wanted to teach me a lesson. Well, lessons work both ways. By the time the candles died out, I knew this wouldn't end with sulking, crying, or begging for the scraps of their attention. No, this time I was going to teach the lesson, a loud, unforgettable one. And the next morning, every single member of my family would learn exactly what happens when you try to humiliate the wrong daughter. I didn't sleep that night. I hovered between pacing and replaying every conversation I'd ever had with them, trying to spot the exact moment I became the optional child, the one you cancel on without guilt. Around 11 p.m., I stopped refreshing the family group chat like an addict. There were still no messages, no sorry, something came up, not even a lazy lie. Just silence, the kind of silence people use as a weapon. I woke up the next morning on the couch with my makeup half smeared, candles burnt out, and a headache that felt like it had signed a lease behind my eyes. My phone buzzed. For one tiny, pathetic second, I thought it might finally be them. It wasn't. It was Instagram. My cousin had posted a story. The little preview at the top of my screen showed fairy lights, champagne glasses, and my mother's dress. I tapped it before my brain had a chance to protect me. There they were, all of them, standing in front of a massive white house with stone columns and a circular driveway that screamed old money, even though none of us had it. The caption? So happy for my baby girl on her new home. Family is everything. There were heart emojis, there were clapping hands, there were tags. I watched my father raise a glass, my mother beamed, my brother did his annoying half smirk for the camera. In the background, I saw one of my aunts, the same one who texted me last week that she couldn't wait to see my new place, hugging my cousin like she'd just cured cancer. Nobody looked sick. Nobody looked busy. Nobody looked like they had simply lost track of time. They looked thrilled, radiant, united. My phone buzzed again as more stories loaded, a boomerang of champagne popping, a shot of the backyard, a close-up of a cake with piped frosting, welcome home, Becca. And there it was, the punchline. That was where they went, not just to a gathering, to another housewarming. The same day, the same time for someone else. They didn't just miss mine, they replaced it. And it was all happening at the Kensington place my neighbor had mentioned, the rich neighborhood I used to bike through as a kid and pretend I'd live in one day. Apparently, my cousin beat me there, or so they thought. I stared at the videos until my eyes burned. Then I did something very dangerous for a hurt person. With a fully charged phone and a working car, I got dressed. Not in the defeated leggings I'd been wearing all night, light helmet that I put on the outfit I bought for my own party. The one I imagined answering the door in while everyone gasped at how grown-up I looked. I did my makeup again, this time slower, calmer, revenge level calm. That's the kind of calm where your hands don't shake, not because you're not emotional, but because you've committed to the emotion so completely that your body has no choice but to cooperate. I grabbed my key. Before I left, I did something subtle but important. I turned out the fairy lights, blew out the remaining candles, and wrapped the food. Not because I'd given up on celebrating, because I knew this wasn't the celebration anymore. This was reconnaissance. Quick question for you watching this. If your entire family skipped your housewarming to go to someone else's, would you pull up just to see it with your own eyes, or would you block them on everything and never speak again? Drop your answer in the comments. I need to know how petty my audience really is. I drove to Kensington with the windows cracked and the music off, no distractions. The closer I got, the more cars I saw, lined up along the street, visitors spilling out in expensive coats and fake smiles. I parked far enough away that they wouldn't immediately notice me, but close enough that I could see the house. It was huge, bigger than mine, I'll give them that. The yard was already decorated with balloons and a sign that said "Home Sweet Home." I watched a little group near the porch. There was my mom, waving her hands as she talked. There was my dad, laughing like he hadn't spent my childhood telling me emotions were too much. And there, center stage, was Becca, my cousin, who used to copy my homework and then act like she was doing me a favor by checking it. She posed on the front steps while someone filmed her. "Say something for the camera," a voice giggled. Becca smiled and flipped her hair. "Just feeling really blessed," she said. "Hard work pays off, you know? And it's amazing to have family who believes in you enough to help you get your dream home." I nearly choked. Family who believes in you enough to help you get your dream home. That line hit me like a chair to the back, because my family did not help me get my house. They questioned every step. "Are you sure you can afford it? Shouldn't you wait until you have a husband? What if the market crashes?" Not one of them offered a dime, a cosign, or even a sincere "I'm proud of you." But here they were, cheering for her like she'd single-handedly rebuilt Rome. Kids ran across the lawn. Someone turned the music up. More relatives arrived with gift bags. It looked like a scene from one of those commercials where everyone's teeth are suspiciously white and nobody has unresolved trauma. I should have left. Any reasonable, emotionally healthy person would have left. But I stood there, half hidden behind a tree, watching, because that's what you do when you've spent your whole life trying to understand why you never make it into the highlight reel. Then I heard my own name. "I mean, at least you make responsible choices." My mother's voice floated over, sharp and sugary. "Unlike Ava." And just like that, I drifted closer, quiet as guilt. "What did she do now?" another relative asked. "Bought some house way across town," Mom said, rolling her eyes so hard I could practically hear it. "No yard, no community, no future. It's basically a glorified box." She always thinks she's proving something, but honestly, it just screams desperate. My father chuckled. "She moves too fast. That's her problem. Never thinks about the big picture. This..." He gestured around them. "This is stability. This is what we're proud of." The heat in my chest shifted from shame to something cleaner, something sharper. Pride isn't the word you use when the same people who raised you can't be bothered to show up for you. Pride is what you claim when you need a reason to justify your cruelty. Becca laughed along, soaking it in like it was champagne. "Well, I mean, it's not her fault she's impulsive," she added in her fake soft voice. "She just wants to feel important." They nodded. They clinked glasses. And I realized something so darkly funny I almost laughed out loud. They didn't just ignore my success. They rewrote it as failure because it wasn't attached to them. They weren't the saviors. They weren't the providers. They weren't the reason, and that, more than anything, was their real problem. That was the moment I stopped asking, "Why don't they love me the way I love them?" and started asking a much better question. Why am I still offering loyalty to people who treat me like a plot twist in someone else's story? I stepped back, slipped into my car, and drove away without them ever knowing I'd been there. They thought the worst thing they'd done that day was skipping my housewarming. They had no idea I'd just watched them expose everything rotten underneath the word family. And if they'd paid attention to me at all, they would have remembered something very important. I do my best work after everyone underestimates me. I didn't drive home right away. I parked 2 blocks from my own house, hands still clenched around the steering wheel like it was holding me together. Do you ever have that moment where your brain is trying to negotiate with your heart? Where logic is like, calm down, breathe, be mature, and your heart is screaming, absolutely not, we burn everything tonight. I sat there in the quiet, letting both sides fight it out. The candles, the lights, the untouched food, everything I'd prepared for a night full of warmth and laughter, waited inside like a ghost of what the evening should have been. But instead of walking in, I stayed in the car and watched my front door through the windshield. The silence hit harder than their absence. You can tell yourself you're independent, that you don't expect anything from anyone, that you're fine alone, but it's a different kind of ache when the people who raised you can't give you even one evening of showing up. I eventually grabbed my phone and opened the family group chat again like a masochist, checking for wounds they already know are there. Still nothing. Not a single message, no missed calls, no explanations, just a digital graveyard where love should have been. And that's when it hit me. They didn't forget. They didn't accidentally double book. They didn't try to call but missed. They chose not to come. They chose someone else. And they didn't think twice about it. That's when the shame turned into something much cleaner. Sharper, more focused. Not anger exactly. Anger is hot and sloppy. This was cold, surgical, the kind of clarity that happens right before a major life pivot. You know that thing you feel when life gives you a slap so hard your personality resets? Yeah, that. So instead of crying or spiraling or tearing down the decorations, I opened my laptop. I didn't know what I was looking for yet, but I knew better than to sit in pain without making something out of it. Pain, when used properly, is fuel. I started searching for something, anything, that would pull my focus away long enough for me to think straight. And right there, like the universe had finally decided to stop playing with me, I saw an email notification. Subject line, "Your offer has been accepted." My heart jumped, but not because of excitement, because I had completely forgotten about it. 2 weeks earlier, I'd placed a backup bid on another property. Not because I didn't love the one I bought, but because I had started noticing patterns. My family didn't like when I succeeded without them. They tolerated it when it was small, good grades, promotions, things they could downplay. But a house, a whole house, something solid and impressive and entirely mine, that was the beginning of the shift. So I made a move they didn't know about. I bought a second property, quietly, one I planned to rent out later, a place nobody in my family had ever seen, visited, or even suspected existed. I clicked the email. There it was. Official documents. My name, my signature, my property. Something about seeing my independence in writing, snapped me out of the emotional fog. That housewarming they skipped, that was for their daughter, the one who needed them, the one whose whole image depended on being the center of their attention. But this was mine in every sense, my choice, my effort, my security, my future. And it lit something in me that I had been ignoring for years, because here's the truth no one talks about. Sometimes distance doesn't break a family, it saves the part of you they keep trying to kill. I closed the laptop and looked around at the empty house. Something shifted. The decorations didn't look pathetic anymore. They looked symbolic. They weren't reminders of who didn't show up. They were reminders of who did. Me. I showed up. I built this. I created this life, this moment, this milestone. I just did it with the wrong audience in mind. So instead of tearing everything down, I flipped the lights back on. I walked room by room, letting the glow fill spaces that had been dark before I moved in. The quiet wasn't heavy anymore. It felt earned, like peace after a storm. I grabbed a plate, dished up some food, poured myself a drink, and toasted to me. And then my phone buzzed. Not a text, a notification, a comment on my cousin's story. Your family always shows up the best for each other. So beautiful to see. The irony was so loud I actually laughed. A real laugh. The kind that surprises you because it feels like it belongs to someone braver. I looked around my home one more time, then walked upstairs and changed into something warm. I grabbed my keys not because I wanted to drive back to Kensington, but because I wanted to go somewhere that made me feel alive, not invisible. And while I was slipping my shoes on, something occurred to me, something so obvious I couldn't believe I'd missed it. If they didn't come to my celebration, why was I still showing up to theirs? Birthdays, holidays, emergencies, emotional labor, apologies, money, rides, favors. Every single event they ever needed me for, I was there. I was dependable, reliable, consistent. They had built an entire identity around knowing I would always be available, always present, always the stable one. But stability doesn't mean slavery. Reliability doesn't mean invisibility. Loyalty doesn't mean self-sacrifice. And family doesn't get to demand space in a home they couldn't bother to walk into. That was the moment everything changed. Not with a scream, not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a decision, a quiet one, the kind that rearranges everything. They had shown me where I stood. Now I was going to show them where they stood, with me. And trust me, my version of distance wasn't going to look anything like theirs. It was going to be louder, clearer, sharper, and they weren't ready for it. I didn't plan revenge that night, not at first. Revenge doesn't start with fire, it starts with clarity. And clarity hit me like cold water the moment I stepped into the grocery store at 9:32 p.m., still wearing my housewarming outfit like a soldier walking into battle after losing the first round. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, too bright, too honest, illuminating everyone going about their night like the world hadn't just shown me my place in my own family. I walked through the aisles, slowly, pushing the cart like it weighed 100 pounds. I wasn't hungry, not for food anyway, but something about walking under those buzzing lights with strangers around felt safer than sitting alone with my thoughts. Families were shopping together, couples arguing over cereal brands, kids begging for candy. Everyone had someone. I pushed my cart past the bakery section, past the refrigerated displays, and stopped at the floral aisle. And that's where it hit me, the thing that stopped me cold. A family of 4 was choosing flowers for their grandma's birthday. The son asked if yellow roses were her favorite. The daughter insisted grandma loved lilies more. The dad joked that grandma just loved attention. They laughed. Something inside me cracked, not like breaking, but like something opening. I had spent years trying to earn a moment like that from my own family, a simple moment of being remembered, being included, being considered. Instead, mine had forgotten me at my own celebration. Not forgotten, they'd chosen someone else. And I suddenly understood that validation from them was a currency I'd been trying to earn long after its value expired. I left the store with nothing but a bottle of sparkling water and a pack of gum I didn't even want. But when I stepped outside, the air hit me with a kind of electricity I can't explain. It was as if the universe was whispering, "Are you done waiting now?" And this time I answered silently, "Yes, I am." When I got back home, my porch light flickered on automatically. It felt symbolic, like my house itself was greeting me, reminding me that this place didn't belong to them. It never had. It was mine. Mine without their approval. Mine without their attendance. Mine without their permission. Inside, the decorations still glowed, soft and warm, and I realized something. My home didn't look empty anymore. It looked alive. Instead of thinking, no one showed up, I thought, the wrong people were invited. That was the spark. The next morning, everything changed. I woke up with a kind of clarity that felt like a full personality reboot. I brewed coffee, opened my curtains, and then did something I'd never done before. I turned my phone completely off. Not silent mode, off. The world could wait. Because today wasn't about them. It was about reclaiming something I'd been letting them borrow for years. My willingness to forgive too easily. I sat at the kitchen counter with my laptop and opened the email from my real estate agent. The second property was mine, fully approved, closing scheduled, a fresh start I hadn't expected to come at the perfect time. And that's when my thoughts began to rearrange themselves like puzzle pieces falling into the right places. My family didn't show up for my housewarming, but they had no idea I had another housewarming coming. One they wouldn't be invited to. One they wouldn't even know about until the consequences hit. But this story wasn't about punishing them. It was about something far scarier for them, becoming someone they could no longer reach. As I sipped my coffee, I replayed every moment from the night before. The mocking laughter from Ethan's friends, the silent group chat, the fake excuses I knew would come later. I replayed the years before that too, the missed birthdays, the subtle dismissals, the comments disguised as jokes, the way I was always expected to be understanding while they were allowed to be inconsiderate. And something inside me rearranged itself completely. My house wasn't the battleground. I was. Their absence wasn't about the event. It was about their hierarchy, their entitlement, their assumption that I would always be the flexible one, the forgiving one, the one who never demanded anything back. But here's the thing, when someone stops expecting anything from you, they lose access to the version of you they've been taking advantage of. The first domino fell at exactly 10:14 a.m. That's when my mother texted, "Honey, I'm so sorry about last night. Things came up unexpectedly." I didn't reply. 2 minutes later, we all felt terrible we couldn't make it. Still nothing. 5 minutes later, "Are you home? We thought maybe we could stop by today." I locked my phone and put it face down because I wasn't going to let guilt guide the next chapter of my life. Instead, I grabbed my keys and drove to my second property, the new one, the one untouched by family expectations, the one that existed outside of their reach. Walking through that house felt different from the first. The floors creaked a little, the walls needed paint, but it was clean, quiet, and, most importantly, mine, with zero emotional history attached. I walked into the empty living room and stood in the center with my hands on my hips, and then something happened I didn't expect. I smiled. Not a sad smile, a real one, the kind that happens when a puzzle finally makes sense. This house represented something my first house didn't. Independence without the weight of old wounds. And in that moment, the idea for my comeback, my quiet revenge, clicked into place so perfectly it felt pre-written. If my family didn't value me enough to show up, then I would stop giving them access to anything they could take credit for. No more updates, no more invites, no more easy access to the version of me that they only remembered when it benefited them. And as I stood there in that empty room, sunlight streaking across the floor, I felt something I had not felt in years. Freedom. Not the freedom of moving out, not the freedom of buying a house, but the freedom of finally stepping out of a role I never auditioned for, the family afterthought. This time, I wasn't going to beg for space at their table. I was building my own, and they weren't going to like what happened next. By the time evening rolled in, something strange happened. I didn't feel abandoned anymore. I felt invisible in a way that finally made me dangerous. Not petty dangerous, not vengeful dangerous, the quiet kind. The kind people never see coming because they assume you're still wounded on the floor while you're actually standing behind them with clarity sharp enough to cut glass. Standing in that second house earlier had flipped a switch in me I didn't even know existed. And that night I realized something even bigger. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was done. People fear a woman who's angry, but they should fear a woman who's done. She stops negotiating, she stops asking, she stops explaining, she stops shrinking herself to make others comfortable, and most importantly, she stops giving access to the version of herself they depended on. That's who I became that night. And it scared me in the best way possible. Still, I knew my family. They weren't going to let my silence stay silent. They needed to be the heroes of their own narrative, far too much. I didn't expect what happened next, though. My doorbell rang. Not once, not twice, but 6 times in rapid, panicked succession. That was my mother's ring. She always pressed the button like she was trying to send Morse code. I peeked through the side window. Mom, Dad, Ethan, all 3 on my porch, looking like they were auditioning for a reality show titled, "Oops, We Messed Up." My stomach tightened, not from fear, not from guilt, but from a sudden, powerful realization. They didn't come because they cared. They came because they sensed something slipping, something changing, something they couldn't control. I opened the door just enough to stand in the threshold. "Sweetheart, can we come in?" Mom asked, her smile too wide, too quick, too rehearsed. "No," I said calmly. Her smile cracked like thin ice. We all feel terrible about last night," Dad added. Terrible was a word he only used when money was involved, so hearing it now almost made me laugh. Almost. "You didn't feel terrible," I said. "You felt caught." Ethan stepped forward, hands in his pockets like he was trying to look casual. "Look, we were at the barbecue. Alex invited us last minute. We didn't think it was a big deal." There it was. The truth disguised as a confession, not a big deal. My housewarming, my milestone, my celebration, not a big enough deal to compete with free ribs and beer. I stared at him, letting the silence stretch, until he shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't know you were doing all this," Mom said, gesturing vaguely at my house as if the walls offended her. "You didn't tell us it meant so much. Why should I have to?" I asked. She blinked, genuinely confused, as if the concept of consideration without prompting was foreign to her. But beneath her confusion was something else. Worry. Not for me. For herself. For them. For what my silence meant. "Listen," Dad said, clearing his throat. "We want to make this right." "Why?" I asked. He hesitated. Mom shot him a look. Ethan shifted again. And then, finally, the truth slipped through the cracks. "Because," Dad said, exhaling sharply, "your aunt is coming into town next week, and she'll ask about this place. Your mother doesn't want her thinking the family isn't supportive." And there it was. Not remorse. Optics. Not guilt. Appearances. Not love. Reputation. The kind of honesty that makes you nauseous because it's so bluntly selfish your body rejects it. I felt something drop inside me. Not sadness, not anger, but the last ounce of hope I had for them. And once it dropped, I felt light. Empty. Done. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You want my house to be a prop for your family image?" Mom's eyes widened. "No! No, sweetheart, we want—" "Stop," I said. She did. Immediately. That's when she knew. That's when all 3 of them knew they weren't talking to the same daughter they dismissed last night. They were talking to the one who'd finally snapped the invisible chain connecting her worth to their approval. "We want to fix this," Mom whispered. "Tell us what you need." I almost laughed. What I needed? My family had never asked me that question in my entire life. They never wanted to know what I needed. They only wanted to know what I could do for them. Be available, be quiet, be flexible, be grateful, be forgiving, be understanding, be the afterthought who never complained. But now, I didn't need anything from them, not one thing. "I don't need you to fix anything," I said. "I just need distance." Mom's breath caught. Dad frowned. Ethan scoffed under his breath. "Distance," Mom repeated quietly. "Yes," I said. "Distance from all of you." She took a step forward. I stepped backward. "You're being dramatic," Ethan muttered. "No," I said. "For once in my life, I'm being honest." The air tightened. A small crack of something invisible, expectation maybe, snapped between us. And the shift was palpable. "So that's it?" Mom whispered. "That's it?" "Yes," I said. "That's it." I closed the door. Not slowly, not angrily, just with finality, and the sound of the latch sliding into place felt like a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence I'd been trying to write my entire life. I didn't check the window. I didn't wait to see if they left. I walked back into my living room, the same room they ignored yesterday, and sat down on the couch with a calmness that settled into my bones like warm water. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't doubt myself. Instead, I whispered to no one but the walls that finally felt like home. Now the real story begins. Because it did. The silence after the door clicked shut didn't feel empty. It felt earned, like a room finally cleared of people who never deserved to be inside it in the first place. I sat there, listening to nothing but the hum of the refrigerator and the soft thump of my own heartbeat, thinking, not about what they'd said, not about what they meant, but about what they never realized. They didn't leave because they respected my boundary. They left because they didn't know how to function in a world where I wasn't bending. People like them don't apologize. They regroup, they strategize, they wait for the angle that lets them slither back into comfort with minimal accountability. I knew that, I expected that. But what I didn't expect was how quickly the universe would hand me the next chapter. It began exactly 43 minutes after they pulled out of my driveway. My phone buzzed once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. I grabbed it, fully prepared to see an essay-long text from my mother filled with emotional manipulation disguised as concern. But it wasn't her. It was my cousin Leah. Emergency. Call me. I called instantly. She answered on the first ring, whispering like she was hiding in a closet. "Did your family seriously skip your housewarming?" she asked. "Yup," I said. "They all went to a barbecue." "No," she hissed. He lied. "That wasn't a barbecue." Her voice trembled. And suddenly, every nerve in my body lit up. "Then what was it?" I asked. She took a breath. "It was a party. For Ethan. And your parents helped him plan it. A whole event." My jaw tightened. "Why?" A shaky exhale. "Because your parents told everyone. You didn't buy your house. They said Ethan paid for part of it. That you were claiming it as your own to make him look bad." I froze, and for a moment I forgot how to swallow. "What?" "And that's not the worst part," she whispered. "They told everyone you weren't stable enough to live alone, that the housewarming wasn't real, that it was you pretending." My stomach dropped so fast, the floor might as well have disappeared. Pretending. The same word I'd heard my entire childhood. Pretending to be smart, pretending to be capable, pretending to be accomplished. They'd rewritten my reality for an audience. Again, Leah kept going. "And your brother made a joke loud enough for everyone to hear, that you were probably sitting in an empty house with a store-bought charcuterie board, waiting for guests. who'd never come. Something in me cracked. Not emotionally, strategically. My family had just declared war without realizing I was capable of firing back. Not with violence, not with chaos, with truth. The kind that doesn't scream, the kind that cuts. "Why are you whispering?" I finally asked. "Because," she said, "I'm still at the party." I blinked. "Wait, you're still there?" "Yes," she whispered frantically. "I stepped into the bathroom to call you, and people are still talking. Your mom and dad are telling everyone you're having one of your episodes." I almost laughed at the absurdity. Episodes. According to them, anything that didn't benefit the family was an episode. Leah hesitated. "I thought you should know." "Thank you," I said softly, "but I need you to do one more thing." "Anything," she said immediately. "Record everything." Silence. Then, "Already on it." And just like that, the tide shifted. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the black screen of my phone. I didn't look broken. I looked awake. Fully awake. There is a particular sharpness that comes with betrayal. The moment the fog lifts and you finally see the architecture of the lie. My family didn't skip my housewarming because of a barbecue. They skipped it because they were busy rewriting my entire life in a room filled with people who would believe them. And that made what I had to do next painfully simple. I opened my laptop. Not to rant, not to post, not to expose, to prepare. I built a folder first, labeled it Truth. Then I dragged in documents, mortgage papers, bank statements, house deed copies, text messages, voice recordings I hadn't even remembered saving. Not because I wanted to embarrass them, because I wanted proof. The kind they could never distort, no matter how many people they whispered to. Then I opened another folder. This one I labeled Consequences. I smiled as I filled it. Screenshots of their lies, recorded audio from calls, photos of the empty driveway taken every 15 minutes during the housewarming. Evidence layered on evidence, not for social media, not for revenge, for leverage. The kind that doesn't burn bridges, it detonates them. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from Leah, a video. I pressed play. The room was filled with chatter, clinking glasses, and people taking selfies, and right in the center, my family. My mother, reenacting my housewarming, dramatically miming herself knocking on a door while others laughed. My father, fake sighing. "She just wants attention," he said. "It's embarrassing." My brother raising a drink. "At least she can't ruin tonight." Laughter. So loud, so proud, so clueless, I watched the video twice, not because it hurt, because it confirmed something I needed. They didn't just exclude me, they humiliated me, publicly, intentionally, shamelessly, and suddenly their desperate visit earlier made perfect sense. Someone must have told them I knew or they sensed it. People always know when the person they buried starts digging their way back up. I closed the video. And then I heard something unusual, a noise I didn't expect. My own laugh. Soft, cold, almost relieved, because now, finally, everything was clear. They thought I was powerless. They thought I was still that daughter who swallowed everything. But the thing about being pushed out is that eventually you learn the size of your own space, and I wasn't shrinking anymore. I picked up my phone. I typed a message. "Meet me at my house tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., all of you. We're going to talk." I hit send, then turned off my phone. Because tomorrow, the house they refused to enter would become the place they'd wish they never stepped into. The next morning felt unnaturally quiet, the kind of stillness that settles right before a storm chooses which direction it wants to tear through. I woke up before sunrise, not out of nerves, but out of clarity. Clarity wakes you like an alarm clock you didn't set. I showered, made coffee, and walked through my house slowly, taking in every detail of the place my family weaponized against me. The floors they claimed I didn't pay for. The walls they told people I couldn't maintain on my own. The home they erased me from just to crown Ethan as the son their world circled around. But today, those same walls would watch everything flip completely. By 9:30 a.m., the house was spotless. Sunlight pouring across the living room floor in harsh white lines. The kind of light that exposes everything, even the things people try to pretend aren't there. Sitting. I sat at my kitchen island with my laptop open, not typing, just waiting. Then the first car pulled up, then the second, then the third. 3 silhouettes stepped out in a line like they were showing up for a family portrait. My mother wore a too bright smile, her version of armor. My father walked stiffly, jaw clenched, already annoyed. Ethan wore sunglasses indoors, levels of confidence, like he couldn't imagine a scenario where he wasn't the hero. I didn't open the door until they rang the bell, once, twice, 3 times, just like last night. When I finally opened it, none of them spoke. They just stood there, waiting to see which version of me they were meeting. The daughter they dismissed, the sister they mocked, or the woman they underestimated. I stepped aside. "Come in." They moved past me, looking around like tourists entering a museum they didn't believe deserved funding. My mom sighed dramatically. "We're glad you called, sweetheart. We have a lot to clear up." "We do," I said, closing the door. "But let's start with what happened last night." My mother's expression flickered. My father's nostrils flared. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "We told you," he said. "The barbecue? Stop," I said quietly. They did. I walked to the counter and pressed play on my laptop. Leah's recording filled the room instantly. Crystal clear. My mother's voice. "She's pretending again. It's embarrassing." My father's voice. "It's not a real housewarming. She's not stable enough to live alone." Ethan's voice. "Cheers to a night she can't ruin." The silence that followed could have cracked the ceiling. My mother's face drained of color. My father swallowed hard. Ethan's smirk evaporated like smoke. I watched each of them come undone by their own words. No embellishments, no accusations, just truth. And truth has a unique talent for making liars choke. "Where did you get that?" Mom asked, voice trembling. "The same place you got your stories," I said. A room full of people. Dad took a step forward. "You shouldn't." "I shouldn't what?" I asked. "Know what you say when I'm not in the room." His mouth snapped shut. Ethan shook his head. "You're blowing this out of proportion." I almost laughed. "Out of proportion? You publicly told people I was mentally unstable because you didn't want to attend a housewarming I paid for entirely on my own." Mom tried the soft voice tactic she used whenever she wanted to control without looking controlling. "We didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it?" I asked. "What interpretation makes 'she's pretending again' sound supportive?" She looked at the floor. For once, silence was her only answer. I closed the laptop gently. "You didn't skip my housewarming by accident. You skipped it because you'd rather celebrate a lie about Ethan than the truth about me." My father's jaw tensed. "We just didn't think it was a big deal." "Because I was the one hosting?" I finished. His silence confirmed everything. Ethan crossed his arms. "Okay, fine. You're mad. We get it. Can we move on? We didn't come here to rehash feelings." I turned toward him slowly. "Oh, we're not rehashing feelings." His expression twitched. "Then what are we doing?" I walked past him, picked up a folder from the side table, and placed it on the counter. "We're talking about consequences." My mother's voice cracked. "Consequences?" "Yes," I said calmly, because last night wasn't just rude, it was defamatory. My father scoffed. "You're not suing your own family." "Why would I sue?" I said, "when I can do something much simpler." Ethan laughed, nervous, forced. "You're bluffing, am I?" I pulled out the documents. Let's see. Their eyes widened as they scanned the pages. Bank statements, deed information, mortgage evidence, proof of ownership, proof of financial independence, proof that every lie they told was exactly that, a lie. "I'm not sharing this online," I said. "I'm not embarrassing you publicly." Their shoulders relaxed for exactly half a second. Then I continued. "But I am setting boundaries." Back straight, shoulders steady, voice unwavering. "From now on, you will not use my name in conversations you twist. Speak about my mental state, claim financial involvement in anything I've earned, show up uninvited, or rewrite my life because it makes yours more convenient." My mother blinked fast. "Sweetheart, don't do this. Family, I cut, is not a hall pass for cruelty." Dad exhaled sharply. "So what, you're cutting us off?" "No," I said, "I'm cutting myself free." The difference hung in the air like a blade. Ethan rolled his eyes. "This is ridiculous." I stepped closer. Not angry, not shaking, just certain. "Tell me," I said, "if your boss had a video of you mocking a coworker's mental health, would you still have a job?" His jaw tightened, and that's when he finally broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with a small, involuntary twitch of someone who realizes, maybe for the first time, the consequences of their own arrogance. "You're not going to ruin my job," he muttered. "I don't have to," I said. "You already did that yourself." The room went cold, completely still. My mother looked between us with dawning horror. "You wouldn't, I won't," I repeated calmly. "Unless any of you ever try to rewrite my reality again." A long, sharp, suffocating silence followed. And then, without a word, they nodded, one by one, not out of respect, out of fear. Fear of losing the privilege of access to the daughter they never believed would stand up to them. "Good," I said softly. "Now leave." They walked out without another argument, without another excuse, without another lie. And when the door closed behind them for the first time in my life, it wasn't the end of something, it was the beginning. They didn't speak to me for 3 days after that. 3 whole days of silence so loud it felt like a radio stuck between stations. Static, constant, unavoidable. They didn't call, they didn't text, they didn't send one of those half-apology, half-gaslight messages my mother specialized in. Nothing. Which told me one thing clearly. They were scrambling. People who don't feel guilty stay loud. People who are scared go quiet. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't pacing. I wasn't refreshing messages. I was calm, centered, steady in a way I'd never experienced around my own family. Because for the first time in my entire life, I wasn't waiting for them to choose me. I had already chosen myself. On the 4th morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating nonstop, buzzing across my nightstand like it was panicking. At first, I thought it was spam, but when I glanced at the screen, my stomach tightened, but not out of fear, out of fascination. A group chat. My family's group chat, the same one they used for every barbecue, every gathering, every casual plan that I mysteriously never heard about until after the photos were posted. And now it was exploding. "Mom, we need to talk immediately. Dad, call us. Ethan, this is serious." I stared at the screen for a full minute before I even unlocked my phone. They never contacted me like this. They contacted about me, sure, but directly, with urgency, something had gone wrong, and for once, I wasn't the cause. I took my time showering, getting dressed, making coffee, not out of pettiness, but out of power. When I finally called back, their faces appeared on a video call instantly, like they were sitting in a waiting room hitting refresh. My mother's voice was shaking before she even said hello. I knew this tone well. Not sadness, not guilt, fear. "We have a problem," she began. I took a sip of coffee. "Oh?" My father leaned into the camera. "It's about Ethan." Of course it was. It was always about Ethan. I said nothing. I waited. Silence makes guilty people confess faster. My mother inhaled sharply. "His company. They called him into HR." I didn't flinch, okay? Dad's jaw ticked. They said someone submitted an anonymous complaint with a recording attached. The world went still, but only for them. Inside me, calm, perfect calm. Ethan's voice cut through the screen, strained, defensive, cracking in the places where pride leaks out. Someone sent them a clip of what I said at the barbecue. Someone told them I mocked a family member's mental health. Someone said I created a hostile environment. My mother's voice wavered. Do you know anything about this? I blinked. Slowly, deliberately. Did you give HR my name? Ethan swallowed. No. Then why, I asked softly, would you assume it was me? Because guilt is always self-incriminating. My father exhaled the way he does when he's about to lie. This could ruin his career. I raised an eyebrow. You mean consequences? My mother shook her head. No, sweetheart, not consequences. This is sabotage. Oh, I said, so when it happens to me, it's justified. When it happens to him, it's sabotage? Mom's face paled. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. My voice was steady, cold, controlled. Someone recorded you mocking your own child and sent it somewhere it actually matters? That's not sabotage, that's accountability. Dad slammed a hand on the table. He could lose everything. Funny, I said, that no one cared when I lost everything. The silence that followed was thick, unbreathable. My mother finally whispered, We didn't think it would go this far. Of course not, I said. People who never face consequences don't believe consequences are real. Ethan leaned closer, anger flickering in his eyes. So you won't help me? Help you? I repeated. Did you help me when you created a smear campaign about my mental stability? When you told people I was unstable? When you celebrated at a barbecue while mocking me? That was different, he snapped. We were joking. And HR agreed, I said quietly, that it sounded like harassment. My father cut in, loud, panicked. We need you to tell them the recording is fake. I blinked again. But it wasn't fake. Mom desperately leaned forward, tears starting to fill her eyes. Please, just say it wasn't you. They won't investigate further if you deny it. Ah, there it was, the real reason they called. Not concern, not reconciliation, damage control. They wanted me to bail out the son who never gave a damn about me. Again. Like always. Like forever. Except, I wasn't that girl anymore, I exhaled softly. I'm not saying anything, my mother gasped. Sweetheart, you all built this mess, I said. You can all clean it up. Ethan's voice dropped to a growl. You're heartless. I met his glare with calm certainty. No, I'm done being your emotional janitor. Silence suffocated the call. Then I said something none of them expected. And for the record, I wasn't the one who sent the recording. Their faces froze, shock splitting them into pieces. My father's voice cracked. Then who? I took another slow sip of coffee. You should really be nicer to people, Ethan. You never know which of your friends actually likes you. My mother pressed a hand to her mouth. My father blinked rapidly. Ethan looked like someone had punched the belief system right out of him. But if HR already has the recording, I continued, they'll investigate. And if they investigate, they'll talk to other employees. Panic bloomed across Ethan's face. Because he knew. He knew exactly what they'd say, and he knew exactly what he deserved. My mother finally whispered, Please, don't let this happen. I'm not involved, I said calmly. Good luck. Then I ended the call. Not angrily, not dramatically, but gently, almost kindly. Because when you finally stop begging people to value you, the world becomes unbelievably quiet and unbelievably yours. I set my phone down on the counter, walked to the window, and watched the sun rise over my neighborhood, over my home, the one they dismissed, the one they mocked, the one they forgot to show up for. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't feel alone. I felt free. They didn't call back after that. Not once. Not a single message. The group chat went dead, flatlined, like they were all holding their breath and waiting for a miracle that wasn't coming. I didn't check on them. I didn't ask around. I didn't stalk their social media. I simply lived my life in the house they didn't bother showing up for. But when someone finally broke the silence, it wasn't my mom or my dad or even Ethan. It was my aunt. And she never calls unless something is on fire, literally or socially. Riley, she whispered the moment I picked up, like she was delivering news from a bunker. Your mother is having a difficult time. I leaned on my kitchen counter, stirring my coffee. Define difficult. She exhaled. The entire family knows. The HR suspension, the recording, the investigation. Your mother is humiliated. There it was again, humiliation, their favorite tragedy. They didn't worry about the harm they caused. They worried about the optics. I didn't respond. I just let my aunt keep talking. People reveal the truth when you let silence stretch long enough. They thought you'd fix it, she said quietly. They never imagined you'd stay out of it. I did what any adult would do, I replied calmly. I stayed in my lane. She hesitated. Your mother said she didn't recognize you anymore. My lips curved. Good. That ended the conversation. The next week is when everything truly detonated. It started with a letter, a real physical letter, not an email, not a text, not a voice note, a thick envelope left in my mailbox with my brother's handwriting barely holding itself together. For a moment, just one, I considered not opening it. But curiosity is a powerful thing, especially when guilt is the one delivering it. I tore it open. Inside was a single page. No insults, no excuses, no dramatic paragraphs. Just one sentence, I need to see you. I stared at those 5 words for a long time. Not because they moved me, not because they hurt me, but because for the first time in his life, my brother didn't sound invincible, he sounded human. And humans are dangerous when they're desperate. I agreed to meet him. Not at my house, not at his, but at a neutral place. A coffee shop with 2 bright lights and too many people to let anyone pretend they're still the main character in their own tragedy. He walked in looking wrong. Not sick, not exhausted, just wrong. Pride looks strange when it's cracked. When he sat down, he didn't joke. He didn't posture. He didn't even make eye contact at first. The silence between us felt like wet cement, heavy, thick, still drying. Finally, he said it. They fired me. Not suspended, not investigated. Fired. I didn't flinch. Okay. He looked up sharply. That's all you have to say? What more is there? He exhaled shakily. I was up for a promotion. I was next in line for a team lead role. I had plans, Riley. And I had a housewarming party, I said, that no one bothered showing up for. Life is full of disappointments. His jaw clenched. You think this is the same thing? You mocked me, I replied, in front of your friends. You humiliated me to feel big, and someone recorded it. You fired yourself. He swallowed hard. I didn't know they hated me that much. They don't hate you, I said. They just saw an opportunity to speak up when they didn't have to face you directly. He looked down at his hands. That was the moment I realized. Ethan wasn't a monster. He was a product of being celebrated without effort. A product of parents who worshiped talent and ignored kindness. A product of a family system built on hierarchy instead of love. And for the first time since childhood, I felt something toward him. Clarity. Why did you want to see me? I asked. He finally met my eyes. His voice cracked. Because you're the only one who never lied to me. I didn't expect that. Not from him. Not ever. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, shoulders collapsing inward. Mom and Dad are pretending this is some misunderstanding. They keep saying HR overreacted. They want me to fight the termination legally. Will you? I asked. He shook his head. No point. They have other recordings, other complaints. It wasn't one moment. I nodded. No, it wasn't. He looked at me almost pleadingly. Do you hate me? It would have been easy to say yes, to punish him with the truth he feared most. But hate wasn't what I felt, not anymore. Hate requires attachment. And I wasn't attached to him. I had detached, quietly, slowly, patiently, the night no one came to my housewarming. No, I said, I don't hate you. I just refuse to be your punchline ever again. He nodded slowly, as if absorbing a truth he'd been avoiding for years. I deserved that. You deserve the little consequences, I corrected, not cruelty. For a long moment, we just sat there, breathing in sync for the first time since childhood. Then he said something I never expected. I'm sorry. And not the casual, my bad type, not the sarcastic kind. The real, heavy, unfamiliar kind. The kind men say when they've run out of excuses to hide behind. I studied him, trying to decide if the apology erased the betrayal. It didn't. It never does. But it softened the blade. Thank you, I said quietly. That matters. He finally looked relieved. Not healed, not redeemed, just relieved. That was enough. We exchanged a few more words. Soft, strained, awkward in a way siblings rarely are unless they're rebuilding from rubble. When he left, he didn't hug me. I didn't offer one. We just nodded at each other like two soldiers stepping off a battlefield instead of two siblings finishing a conversation. And when he walked out the door, I felt the strange, quiet satisfaction of closure, not the dramatic movie version, but the real one. The kind that settles into your bones like warm sunlight after a long storm. When I got home, my phone buzzed again. A message from a number saved only as Mom. Dinner tomorrow? We'd like to talk. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed 3 words. I'll think about it. Not yes, not no, because for the first time in my life, my answer wasn't automatic. My presence wasn't guaranteed. My worth wasn't negotiable. My house, the one they skipped, the one they dismissed, the one they forgot, was mine. My boundaries were mine. My peace was mine, and they would have to earn their way back into all of it, slowly, carefully, respectfully. Maybe one day they'd get there. Maybe one day they wouldn't. But the difference was simple. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was living on my terms, finally.